Pleasure to be here. This is a very eminent panel. Welcome to all of you. What I would like to do is very quickly share my screen for a quick second and or essentially let you know that the format that we are trying to work with today is we will have an opening statement from each of the panelists, and then we will delve into the sectoral or industry vertical analysis and talk about the approach to digital transformation, which is cross-sectoral, and we will share some stories before we take audience questions and summarize our discussions for today. So that essentially is the agenda. And without much further ado, let me start off with my opening statement. We are at a strategic inflection point on this planet and in the midst of three existential crises: the epidemic, the economic, and the environmental. The advancement of digital technologies provides us the opportunity to create value for a higher quality of life, renewing the concepts, culture, capabilities, and configuration concurrently. Structures, systems, and synergies must be mobilized to render to the emerging demands of a democratic world that has access and authority to resources such as talent, money, and infrastructure like never before in the history of this planet. There is a need to drive transformation that is digital in nature, that transcends life, industry, and commerce, abstracting and aggregating at seamlessly across design thinking, design, transformation, and innovation in a continuum. So in this session, we will try to explore this mechanism of digital transformation across sectors and industries that is represented by customer industry ecosystems, eminently represented by the panel that I'm so privileged to share a platform with today. Welcome to all of you. And at this point in time, let me start inviting Sushil to share his perspectives, and then followed by the others.
Thank you, Subbu. It's great to be here. And thanks for inviting me on this panel. I would like to share my thoughts here. And this pandemic has really reshaped the consumer behavior, right? And the expectation of the leaders from their workforce has changed dramatically, right? So technology was already a fundamental and integral part of the organization's communication and workflows earlier, but the business culture technology relationship has intensified because of this crisis, right? To meet the new and rapidly shifting needs, companies are working to adapt and accelerate digital experience delivery, right? Fixing gaps serves as a catalyst for organization across industries to take a closer look at what the digital transformation has taken place and what still needs to be needs to be done to future ready the business. So going forward, I think digital transformation will be one of the topmost priority for any business leader if it's not already there in place in their organization, or if there is further scope for digital transformation.
So let's Samit. I'm just taking the order of what's on my screen. So Samit, can you pipe in, please?
Yeah, thanks, Subbu, and good afternoon to everybody. Great privilege to be part of this extremely erudite panel, as well as to be part of the conference out here. My take is that you use the three words of environment, epidemic, and economic. I think this has indeed brought in what was extremely disruptive. We are actually experiencing disruption. We've been talking about it. Now we know what it is. We think we know what it is. Probably it's going to change much more. We really don't know. But definitely it's been a massive shift from what it used to be in the past. I would like to add three more words to this if we really want to live with the spirit of digital, which is with the spirit of entrepreneurship. So I would add another E, which is entrepreneurship, which essentially consists of three more words: explore, experiment, and build expertise. I think these are three important elements that go to creating a digital world for yourself, for your company, as well as looking at, how to do business. So, I represent the manufacturing business, the manufacturing sector, which is supposed to be the sleepy, slow people, but we do produce stuff. And I'd be very happy to share with all of you as to, what is it that we were able to do to, overcome this pandemic situation and come on stream within, 7 days of the lockdown itself. Thank you so much.
I'd like to invite Setiaji. I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. If otherwise, please forgive me. But I'd like to invite Setiaji to present his perspectives.
Thank you, Subbu. Yeah, correct, Farams. Thank you. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and also the panelists. It's an honor for us to share our experience, especially in the government sector. As you know, I was a former head of the Jakarta Smart City 1 year before, and now in the Jakarta government provincial. This is, as you know, the technology digital transformation not only talk about the technology itself, but also how we can change the bureaucracy and also the business process. And then the important thing also how we develop the people, the digital talent, and etc. We have some different issue when we live in the city and also in the rural area. So both in the sectors, I already have some experience. It's me, lucky me. I have some completed experience of not only how we develop the technology aspect in the urban area, but also in the remote area. So maybe we can discuss more in this panels. Thank you.
We will reserve the last word for Vineet, while I will now invite Soumyadip to share his perspectives.
Hi, thank you, Subbu. Very good afternoon to the eminent panelists. Good afternoon to the audience. Happy to be a part of this August member of group. Now, if you really look at the digital transformation, how the industries are looking at it, I believe in a simple analogy. You have the basic DNA of an organization, which is about the customer, reaching out to the customer, managing the manufacturing process, packaging, managing your HR, etc. On the other hand, you have a digital DNA, which is there in order to transform the business. Now, what happened is that in the digital transformation is how you basically take these two DNAs and put one on the top of another in order to have the transformation. The more efficiently organizations can do that, and these two DNAs or center of gravity, whatever you call it, are indistinguishable, better is the transformation. But the more distinct they are, the more distant they are, you are having more siloed projects, which are digitalization, but which are not your digital transformation. Now, what has happened, Subbu, over the last few months is a very interesting thing. Because of the challenges and because of the factors, environmental, the pandemic and other things, now we are being forced to take this digital DNA to get superimposed on the business DNA. Okay, while we are talking about reaching out to the customers in a different way and other things, which are making this journey further interesting. It is accelerated, and hence the challenges are also manifold. So I look forward to this particular session where we will definitely share moving forward how these challenges are looking like and where digital transformation can play a very important role in moving ahead with the organizational journey. Thank you very much.
So we have a limit of 40 minutes. We have to keep reminding ourselves, but Vineet, and this is a very, very deep end topic. So, we could be spending not 40, but 400 hours and still not reach a resolution. But Vineet, very quickly, please, we're waiting for your last word on this subject.
Yeah, great, Subbu. Thanks everyone for being here and inviting me. See, when we talk about digital transformation, and you must have heard this n-team number of times, right? Digital transformation is about disruption, right? And what the bigger disruption this pandemic would have brought, right? So a lot of people really realize about disruption, the way the corona disrupted the life of everyone, right? So few companies were well prepared. When I say well prepared, they were already working towards it, right? How to work in the digital world, right? few companies started this as one of the biggest priority, right? That has changed for a lot of companies. I talk to a lot of peers, and that is what I hear, right? Now coming to digital, right? When somebody tells me digital, there are three important things everybody should remember when you're listening. And this is a very, very basic, I wanted to share. It's about three things, right? One is about digitization, right? Are you doing something manually? And can you convert that to, it's a foundation to digital, right? So if you do that, there will be value out of it. Then it is a digitalization, right? Digitalization is about saving money. How can you save money while doing some work, right? By either increasing the productivity or throughput, by optimizing cost, by reducing defect, or by increasing availability of assets, especially for manufacturing, or by improving the safety of safety and environment. Finally, digital transformation, where like when we say digital transformation, all the three things come together, but digital transformation is about making money. Okay, so again, I will go. Digital transformation was making money. How can you sell more? How can you make more money? Digitalization is about saving money, and digitization is about creating the foundation for all of them, right? That's digital for me, right? So Subbu, I know we have a lot more to talk about. I will give it back to you, and we will talk more for the few examples.
Thank you, Vineet, and thank you everyone for sharing your initial perspectives and setting the stage. So let's dive right into the first of the crises, which is the existential crisis of environment. Now, we live in a very divided world. There is on one hand, you have people who deny climate change. On the other hand, you have people saying extinction, there is a doomsday saying tomorrow, right? So I'm going to go straight to Setiaji with my first question that you can share. And you probably are the best house, who is working at a governmental level, talking about. So I want to connect governance, which is basically, governance, risk, and compliance. This is basically set through legislation. This is set through industry works in the context of that. How do you see the governance participation and without the government initiative on environment, can industry itself reduce carbon footprint? Can industry itself create opportunities for digitalization, which results in the reduction of carbon footprint? So that's my question. Please take it away, Setiaji.
Okay, thank you. Please, I will to share my presentations here to make sure. Yeah, I want to introduce our province, West Java. This is the biggest province in Indonesia. In terms of the population, we have around 49 million people live in there, and mostly live in the villages. We have around 5,000 villages. You can imagine we have many challenges in there, not only about the infrastructures, but also the digital literacy. So the technology itself needs to be optimizing in this area. Yeah, we have our program, we call the digital province. So not only the government needs to change for the fast response, and also our development to become like user-centered development, and then we bring the digital itself is inclusive, not only to be for the people live in the city, but also live in the villages. And then we also foster the innovation and collaboration. As you know, the collaboration is an important thing to accelerate the digital. So we with the startup community and also the academici together develop this opportunity. And then this is the impact after we build the digital. We have 10 themes for the fishery, telemedicine, health, agriculture, etc. We bring the technology in the villages. And then after this, you can see the index level of the villages. Before we have the underdeveloped villages, and then now the underdeveloped villages is decreasing around 205. And then all the villages now moving into we call the independent villages, and then also the developed villages. And then after this, the technology itself can improve their social, economic, and many things, also the environmental issue in this area. That's it, Subbu. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So yesterday, when we were walking through just the preparation, Samit reminded me that digital transformation is all about people, and it is all about people, right? So in that context, Soumya, so you work, your work of digital transformation, very interestingly coming from Vikram Solar. So can you throw a perspective in terms of how you see this intersection between governance, risk compliance, and with that of environment, and how we can make this relevant to life, the digital transformation we are talking about, relevant to life.
Sure, Subbu. When we look at, as a part of the industry, which is solar, we are going to the manufacturing industry. We are talking about manufacturing industry. But at the same time, when you're talking about manufacturing, you have got your entire supply chain. You have got your entire environmental aspect. You have got your entire governance, risk, and compliance policies, which are there. So, and that is where automation plays a very important role. And individual departments, individual functions, they play their critical role in that. So if I talk to the core, again, I come back to my earlier analogy in terms of what is a core DNA is a manufacturing process. But when you're looking at the manufacturing process, there are cases like I am running machines, okay? But can I bring all of them to a common platform, digital platform, which is like with the help of industrial IoT or IIoT platforms? And can I create eventually a digital twin? In that way, if you have the separate different degrees of automation, you may not have to mobilize your people. Your number of people come down, or your production per manpower, that really increases. As a result of that, what is happening? It is giving you higher productivity. It is giving you cost per megawatt production much lesser. If you're talking about the backend processes, on the other hand, you can talk about robotic process automation. My compliance today can happen through a dashboard, which is not a post-facto analysis, but is more like a futuristic analysis. Okay, what are the cases that I can face eventually moving forward? If I have a digital twin, I can predict how my supply chain needs to be tuned with respect to the requirement of my production. And on the other hand, from a customer standpoint, you can also predict what is going to be my demand moving forward in 1 month or in 2 months, depending on the global scenario. So in everywhere, you have these different blocks of the organization that we heard some of the earlier speakers has also spoken about, that you can create a tuning across your entire value chain. And that is called digital transformation. But to me, it is more like a value chain transformation that we talk of. So that's the role of the digital. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I want to actually segue. This is a great segue to two of our people who come from manufacturing sector. So let me segue this question to Vineet, who talked about the definition of the 3 Ds, if you may, of digital transformation. So from a manufacturing perspective, right? So manufacturing today is more technology than manual. As we are beginning to learn, right? Whether it is with IoT, whether it is with sensors, whether it is with wearables. So, can you relate to taking away from where Soumyadip left in terms of your experience, and share some perspective from JSW's, point of view?
Great. Thanks, Subbu. So the way we approach about the transformation is right. First, and this is not just for JSW, any company, right? If I speak about, right, first they have to understand the entire value chain, where all you can unlock the value, right? It can be a technology, using technology. It can be using process change. It can be even just training people, right? So it all depends on how exactly you want to. So first you have to understand the entire value chain. And once you understand the value chain, then you define, I always say that, create a 4 blocker. Okay. What is the impact versus what is the investment which you have to do? If you do this 4 blocker, you will find the sweetest spot where you have to really work on. It's the easiest way, right? There is no rocket science behind it. First, define the value chain. Then, based on like all the backlogs which you have created, which you know that there can be some benefits and outcome out of it, create the investment versus the impact 4 blocker and start working on it, right? lot of times you will see that and a lot of people will believe it's a destination we are going towards, but remember it's a journey, right? And once you do one thing, you will get another thing to do about it, right? So that's why I always say go for an approach. When the Subbu, the way you started, I loved it on design thinking. That is one of my favorite topic whenever and wherever I do anything on digital, right? Understanding the process, how exactly, what exactly is done, creating a solution persona based rather than creating a solution what you believe is right. Those are the key things for that, right? And I always believe culture transformation is the biggest challenge in the digital transformation, right? And it's all about how. So when I talk about cultural transformation, right? So a lot of people say, okay, what cultural transformation is? It's about heart, mind, and skill, right? Can you first make sure people's heart is in about that? Are they ready to do about it? Once they are ready to do about it, then the mind you have to bring together. Okay, let's do this. This is the right thing. And then you have to make sure people are having skill sets either inside or get the right skills to solve the problem. I think that's the way. And we have seen it multiple places at JSW, right? From, I will take an example of steel business. So we have steel, cement, energy, paints. We have a lot of businesses, right? So, but I will take an example of steel business. So we are the biggest steel company in India, right? So on the steel side, if I really see the manufacturing, we are talking about manufacturing, right? So seeing the value chain from where the material comes, we have to make sure what is the material availability, is what kind of blending we need, but is what is available from there, right? How it is reaching us, is there a loss in the whole transit process, right? Once it reaches us, how are we going to blend it and utilize it maximum, right? How can we increase the outcome of blast furnace or productivity or blast furnace, get the best combination in SMS, mills produce the best quality, right? And then once we take out the material, the logistics, we get the timely delivery done for that. So I think that's a value chain for me from the steel business kind of, right? And once I define all these things and then see, okay, what are the things which we need to address to really solve the problem? I think that's the approach we do at JSW. And I will say not only we, I think any of the digital leaders in the forum would have done the same way, right? It's all about understanding the value, what is the value chain, and then identifying what are the low hanging fruit versus like investment versus value. Few people company define, okay, I have an ROI time for six months. Few say that 1 year, 2 year. It all depends on how what's the appetite of the company. Okay, and
Absolutely.
then making sure the people are ready for that. I
Yeah,
think that's a
absolutely. So digital provides us that opportunity, and I think you have beautifully played this ball, to the deep end of the field, and you're asking Samit to take a single very quickly with you. So the point here is you're making is a good point, which is, years ago, I happened to, as a rookie, did a consulting engagement with at Cooper Survival with Mars, and I told them that anybody in the world can make a chocolate. And literally, the managing director came to me and she said, "You really think you're talking to Mars? Do you know you're a kid?" And but anyway, we convinced them at that point in time that their main function or their main core process was supply chain and not manufacturing chocolates. I said anyone can manufacture a recipe anywhere in the world. So Samit, your role as a supply chain, global supply chain at that, right? And I'm glad you have that title, so don't ever lose it. So the point is, you see mobility today, which is just not the transportation of goods. It's actually the transportation of data, which is 40x the volume, right? And then the transportation of people and the goods with it. So can you jump right in and take that single with Vineet right now, and without getting run out? I mean,
No, I hope not. If he's hit it deep into the field and he's managed a big boundary, then I think I have to take steel one. But thank you for that, Subbu, because yeah, supply chain and also my title also carries technology, so which is a pretty interesting combination. And technology to me is about UI UX. It's about AT. It's about OT. So it's about automation. It's about doing operational technologies and looking at the conventional, let's say, IT/digital. So There is a big debate about IT and digital, but anyway, we can keep talking about it. You're right. I mean, what's different this time is that we are seeing not only the transportation of goods, but more about the data that each move is making. So, am I opening a container and am I contaminating a container? So, how many times have I opened a container? It is very extremely important for a food and pharma kind of a business. Am I moving my data loggers and seeing what's the temperature? And I'm supposed to be at minus 2 degrees, or let's say even if I'm supposed to be at 0 degrees. But when my goods are on the tarmac going to get into an aeroplane, it's probably at 40 degrees. So what's happening to the contents inside? So I think these were known. Now we know specifically, and more importantly, we are now using these to, let's say, looking at repacking, looking at designing our stuff in a very different way. Another example that we have, because we have a lot of exports as part of our business, we export to about 52 countries. The old requirement was about, let the customer know where is his goods, one dot on the global map where the ship is. But I think it's much more than that. He now wants to know what is in that particular container, when is it going to go out, and he's now almost doing scheduling of his production lines while the container is in the middle of the sea. Now, how do you provide that? You can only provide that if you have the capability of harnessing all these things, which are probably on standalone islands, into a central place, whether it's the cloud, whether it's the on-prem, whatever it is. So I think a lot of technology play happens because of the fact that the way you construct yourself and the way you set yourself for the future. This is just the first part, which is more the descriptive part. The second part is really about what do you do with the data to actually, move this needle. And as Subbu said, digitalization is about saving and digital transformation is about making. So it's about value capture and about value creation. How you use that, this asset, which is supposed to be data, the new oil, that's like the mantra that's going on. But it's easier said than done, and it requires a lot more harnessing of computing power, technology, and wiring everything into that central pool from where you can again disseminate, dissect it and then disseminate it. I hope I did well for that single run.
You did. You're safely in your crease. So again, so coming down to the though there is this debate between IT and digital, it's simply a difference between processing and computing. And computing today is not just back-end processing, which is purely written by software. It is also hardware, right? Which is where I'm going in to Sushil. You have a very interesting area of where your company operates is, where there is a convergence of basically the hardware and the software. And that convergence, like whether it is Apple, whether it is Google, they talk about their businesses have been shaped in the last 20 years on the principles of converging content computing and communications, right? So, you have a very similar thing to talk about, which is the convergence. And this is a segue, a very important segue in the digital transformation journey. Can you talk about this a bit, please?
Yeah, sure. So, when the pandemic started, we were thrown with this problem, where a lot of organizations were not, ready for, getting back to the, home and, work from home, right? And they were, scrambling their heads to, look for a business continuity plan, right? That's where, our expertise, from the audio video collaboration came in, and we started, working on the real and the, virtual side of the, digital duality, right? So I strongly feel that, this virtual world is the extension of the real world that we have, right? And that's where, they collaborate and converge, right? So initially, when the organizations were operating from office, they were not really present into the virtual conferencing and those kind of things, right? So when the pandemic started, suddenly these people, they got onboarded onto the video collaboration platform, and they started working from there, right? So, and the hardware, became very useless for them because they wanted to go on a virtual platform, right? So they started looking for VDI platforms, and everything went into the cloud. So we saw the transformation, from hardware to software happening, right? And that is the shift, that we saw, when the pandemic started, and it is still continuing and it's going on.
So thanks for that, Sushil. So basically where I'm coming from, I think we have precisely another 7 minutes. So let me quickly say, and then I'll throw this question open, either say Setiaji can take this question because I think it's most relevant, but or anyone else, is, healthcare, education, the three other parts that are remaining, of the, what I call the stations of life, are some, and wealth, right, are fundamentally connected to everything that we talked about. When we talk about cross-sectoral, we started with environment and governance, and then we went into technology and mobility, and now we are talking about the three remaining ones, which is basically education, healthcare, and wealth. And these again, these are the 7 interconnected stations, and I cannot imagine anything else that we participate in life about, right? So let me quickly segue this question both to Setiaji and Soumya. Very quick response before we can start taking questions. Now, this connectedness, how do you see it happening? For example, do you have an example of how this is being addressed in your, in your enterprise, in your government?
Me first, yeah. Okay, thank you, Subbu. Actually, we have the ecosystem, we call the digital ecosystem in the West Java. We engage the community, engage the academic, government, central government, and also the city level, and also the technology partners. Yeah, so we collaborate them, also the startup, to accelerate our digital transformations. And then for the people, we have many people live in the rural area, so we provide the technology in there, not only infrastructures, but also the applications. We build the application to connect them, so they can connect the government easily, compare if using the conventional method. We provide the smartphone into the, we call the community leaders. Yeah, we provide them, we call the, sorry, I will try the, this is our application, how we connect between the citizen and then also the government. The citizen can provide the information for me for facts like disasters, health, emergency, and etc. And then so with this we collect the data, the issues for more testing, and then we use the big data to analyze some issue, and then we provide the policy and also the supporting into them. And then also we cut any bureaucracy, so the citizen can access, for example, to pay the tax and then to get the permit using this application. And you can imagine if there is no technology in there, so the services is not optimized, and then the public services is not good if there is no technology in there. Okay.
No, brilliant. That is, especially the use of the word aspiration is fundamental there. Soumya, very quickly, getting into that, plugging into what Setiaji just shared, I think
absolutely
your business fundamentally represents, if you may, that the convergence of the B to B to C. Ultimately, solar power needs to be utilized, but health needs to be utilized, right? So can you plug into what Setiaji said, and how do you really bring out that aspirational in the way in which you create digital transformation? Because that is the essence of converging, the three things that digital is all about, which is smart, sensitive, and serendipitous. Please take it away.
Absolutely, Subbu. So very well said, and just taking a cue from where Setiaji just left. It starts with a vision, actually. And the moment you talk about a vision, then there is an aspiration that comes out of it. And then you time the overall vision in terms of the very specifically designed milestones. And then you go and continuously, keep on achieving them. And in the process, you also take up a number of different projects, initiatives, and areas. But you don't lose your eyesight from what you want to achieve. So the same thing we have also done. You mentioned about 3 specific areas. One is basically healthcare. You talked about wealth and education. Now, Vikram Group, though I represent Vikram Solar, but we work very closely as a group. We also have an education body. And I know, working very closely with them as well, I know how very quickly this entire education sector is transforming also. I mean, and whenever this transformation happens, wealth cannot really stay away, right? So I think everybody in this particular panel will agree with me. Over last few months, the sector that really addressed, or attracted maximum investment was basically the education sector and the edtech sector. Where you have got the online platforms, you have got the companies of folks like White Hat Junior, Vaijus, Vedantus, they are all mobilizing the fresh set of funds and everything, So this entire learning space is getting, transformed. On an industrial focus, if I really look at education, continuous treatment and continuous understanding of the customer value, and then moving forward with this entire thing is something very critical. Okay, that's where comes the VR, AR application, training and other things. I can just go on and on, but, just let me conclude by saying that this entire digital transformation paradigm is transforming each of these areas, even in the corona or in the pandemic situation, the way looking at the healthcare and the safety and security of the employees, that is also being transformed. So
hey,
that's
thanks, Soumya. Thanks so much. We all understand this is a deep topic. I'm going to throw it back to Anisha, to take questions if there are. And, we've just scraped the surface, or probably not even scraped it, just scratched it, so there is a lot to discuss, and hopefully we will find other opportunities. I'm sure to take on other questions any other time, physically or virtually, which is the promise of digital, of course. So with that, Anisha, please take it over for questions and for conclusion.